So, hi, my name is Serg, and I will repeat a bit of something what was just said. That today I'm gonna speak about native JavaScript modules, but I will start from actually explaining who I am once again. Yes, I'm involved in all these discussions about JavaScript, native JavaScript modules, features, whatever. CSS Houdini, if you heard, yes. Actually, I'm working on this as well, and I'm sharing this with the community on my blog and on Twitter and other things. So, actually, if we're speaking, can you start the timer? Sorry. Yeah. If we speak about native modules, let's try to understand how we came actually there and why do we need modularity. If you don't have modularity, you have this situation, yeah? Something is going on, you have no idea how to reuse some parts of your code, and yeah. Code readability is terrible, architecture is terrible, dependencies, everything is absolutely unusable. So, many years ago, when JavaScript just started, it was around 1997, we had first attempt, yeah? External JavaScript files, you remember, you put script, you put some files. Nice try, yeah? Pros, code separation and separate files, yeah? Cons, code reuse and global scope. Every time when you had this variable, do you remember we had variables, not constant let we have now. Every time when you just put the same variable in different module, absolutely wonderful idea. It was override, yeah, because it was global variables, nothing like scope for a module. After, we tried to use something like immediately invoked function expressions. Do you remember this particular syntax? You wrap everything in a function which creates you a scope in JavaScript, and you put this as a module. Cool, nice try, but absolutely terrible syntax, yeah? So, global vars. After we have AMD. AMD is async module definition. Do you remember this particular syntax? Let's take a look. So, you define it. I have a module, I'm a component drop-down. Wonderful. I have some dependencies, like vendor, polyfill, libcore, whatever. And this is exactly what I will expose as a module. Okay. And after, when you wanted to use this particular module, you said, okay, I have a dependency component dropdown. Okay, pros. Finally, you have module scope, because actually everything is wrapped in this variable and function. Dependency injection was there because you could redefine this particular component dropdown, whatever. So nice for unit testing and other stuff. Tooling was there, WeAreDevelopers and everything else. First thing, confusing syntax. To be honest, I still remember 2 years ago, I had interns in my company, they spent 3 days and they couldn't realize this syntax. It's absolutely confusing for the people. Second one, it's like, because of the async nature of this particular syntax, it was, in very HTTP1, multiple requests if you didn't use specific build like WeAreDevelopers and other stuff. And the most terrible stuff when you used this with Angular, you were required to put this particular strings twice to avoid modification problems. Honestly, disgusting as well. CommonJS, wonderful. Node.js came, brought us all this syntax. We're still using this, require, and it is straightforward. As only I put require, I just require additional module as a dependency. I'm saying invoke me, or just expose some particular, just like drop down from components drop down. Much better, yeah? So pros, supported in Node.js. All this big Node.js community still using this and it works. Perfect. Scoping and context, yes, everything was there. Modules could be reused, anything. Tooling, Browserify, Node.js, everything. I'm sorry, it's actually cons. So, no async module load. Every time when you had some functionality, when you were saying, okay, I have some module, I don't know, just like drop down, I'm sorry, just in Node.js, it was separate loader or whatever. At particular time when you needed this and you wanted to load asynchronously, good luck. You had to write your own solution. Of course, there is a way, Stack Overflow is our friend, but. And again, not a standard. Still, no browser supports this and there is no intent, yeah, because it's Node.js Vault. ECMAScript Modules. So here, let's speak about terminology. I need some magic water. They also known as JavaScript modules. They also known as ESM. So a lot of names, everything is the same. I will use this in my presentation. Quickly about syntax, I will return to this once again. This dropdown.js, we already discussed about this dropdown.js in previous examples. Every time when I want to invoke something, I'm just like import my library. Similar to Python. Absolutely. In Python, it's absolutely the same. Export, nice. Now you have import, you have export, you can just do something with your dropdown, and you can do static imports. You can do dynamic imports. I will explain this in more details. So putting this together for now, just believe me, pros, it's module scopes, module reuse, and you can do all ECMAScript 6 things like multiple named exports, deferred, dynamic import, and tooling. All tooling like Webpack, Babel, Rollup, everything support all this particular syntax because we already use this for years, right? Cons, which might came from you. Come on, Serge, is it supported in browsers everywhere? In Node.js? I'll answer, and you will like the answer. Let's take a look what it took us to actually came to this particular state we have now. So June 2015, ECMAScript 6, also ECMAScript 2015 standard came with all this let, const, promises, set, maps, billion additional features, yeah? And it also defined this particular ECMAScript syntax specification, how this import and export work. Let's take a look. In 1 year, only 1 year, all the major browsers actually and Node.js supported all the syntax from ECMAScript 6. Absolutely everything. You see, everything was green, except none include ECMAScript modules. So how? Why? In 1 year, everything there except this particular part. The problem is that JavaScript specification said how import works, how export works, but that's it. How to download these files, how actually, just like resolve all this dependency graph, no idea. So we needed second part, before we got this particular puzzle complete, nothing could be resolved. HTML spec, yeah, surprisingly for you guys, HTML spec defines a lot of different APIs, also how resolve the script modules. HTML spec actually described how to include, how to resolve this module graph of import-export dependencies, how to download these modules, and how it actually works. You see, in 2016, immediately first native ECMAScript modules implementation in Safari. And then support landed in Edge, Chrome, Node.js, you see like mushrooms after the rain. And finally, 1 week ago, tada, Firefox 60, stable, landed with ECMAScript module support out of the box. Ta-da! For the first time in 3 years, I can say, guys, everything what I'm speaking about, you can use today. Yes, because it's supported. And Node.js as well, I will show you. So let's compare once again, module system comparison. Pure JavaScript, module scopes, no tools, blah, blah, blah. So you see, as more red things you have, as just less wonderful solution is. AMD is better, CommonJS is better, and ECMAScript modules is actually the best because it supports static modules, dynamic modules. Syntax is clear like Python, and handy multiple exports, something what I love, honestly. So great, you asking me like, Serge, I'm using this for 2 years, wonderful. I use Webpack, Babel, Rollup, maybe Parcel, whatever, everything works. Why do I care about native modules? Yeah, it's everything is, why would I need it? So native ECMAScript modules advantages. Let me show you once again. Something is supported like green, something is not supported. Native work in the Node.js, only CommonJS and native ECMAScript modules. Super. Native browsers, only pure JavaScript and native ECMAScript. You see where I'm going? Flag for ECMAScript features. So I will show you the trick. If you want to say, hey browser, if you support ECMAScript modules, most of all you support everything else. And yes, it's because you saw this is the latest browser, so all the ECMAScript 6 plus features are supported in them. So I will show you the demo later. Configuration. Guys, how much time you spend for your Webpack config, honestly. Yeah, and the same build. Every time you do some changes, you're waiting for a build. Of course, you use watch, yes, but come on, guys. You want to debug native things. So, everything is green. Okay, demo. I want to show you some demos that I'm not saying something strange for you. I will show the syntax later. Everything what I'm saying, script type module. I will describe this particular flag. That says the browser, I'm a module. I should be actually executed with imports, exports. All this graph should be resolved and everything. Cool. I'm showing you network. I'm sorry. In the network, you see it was HTML, application.js, and all the dependencies, similar to the example we saw before. And finally, I'm coming to debug. I can debug import. This is your browser. You don't do this in Webpack. It's not resolved by your source maps or whatever. That's your browser. You see, import dropdown, it was resolved. I'm debugger. I'm going to user. I'm going to load some particular module, module.js. Module.js resolved because I used await and everything else. Await is working in my browser because if browser supports ECMAScript modules, I'm 100% that await is working as well. You see, it's also a flag. Whoa. So yeah, now I don't need any build. I don't need anything. I'm not spending time. I'm debugging the native sync. Sounds not bad. So, in more details about the syntax. You saw already this, script type module is exactly your flag. So that's how you say in the browser, I'm a module. Yeah, they're deferred by default. So if you know, for the script, you can add different params. Async, defer, whatever. Defer means wait till page is actually loaded. It means DOM ready event, and only after just start executing my scripts in the order. Async will, for example, execute your scripts not in the order, but as only they available. So just you have to know this thing. And also, something I mentioned, they can be deliver ECMAScript 6 features. It's just a flag. OK, as I promised, a bit more details about export, import syntax, because essentially that's what specification says. Export, you can use name at exports, yes? Export const, whatever, second in hour. After you just importing this like that. OK, one example. Another example, it's default. Default, to be honest, it's just another name at export with some particular things. So you see export, blah, blah, blah as default. After, you can just either skip this default or just like use some particular import as default. So you just know the syntax. Multiple exports, something what I love. You can have not only default or one name at exports. It's ECMAScript 6+. Use whatever you want. Put billion exports. And then you can just use it, either just do like that, or import it like, OK, I want one object lib with all my dependencies. Here they are. Or just execute. Come on, I want some polyfill or anything. I just want to execute some particular file. This will execute this particular part. So now we know how this import-export work. I mean, just at least syntax. Features, something what I discussed briefly before. Features, OK, we have global scope, and each module has its own scope, as expected. Yeah, I will not put this const on the global level, but I can export it if I want as a module. Second module, it can import something from the first one, like a variable, and it still has access to the global scope. I can define something, read, and write to the global scope. So another feature, imports are constant references and cannot be reassigned. Just take this as a const. That's the main idea, because later I will show you how actually your browser and Node.js works. This is the link to different order. It's not your, some variable in your particular file. So yeah, take this as a constant. And other features. Modules are singletons. Because it doesn't matter how many times I will import some particular module, for performance benefits, it will be executed and only once. Take a look. In this particular example, I'm importing this statically, dynamically. I will explain the syntax a bit later. You see, even the URL is different, but the module is the same. I'm pointing to the same file. And after I'm checking, OK, in network tab, it was downloaded only once. You see, application.js and dropdown.js. And executed, you see, console log, dropdown module executed. It was executed also only one time. And yeah, it was returned the same instance. Absolutely. They're singletons. Super. Features, import hosting. Similar as feature in JavaScript functions. Actually, they're hosting to the beginning of the file. The same. Doesn't matter if you wrote actually your code this way. First, you put some particular synchronous code, and after imports. Real execution order will be vice versa. You see, all these imports went first. They hosted, and after, this code goes. So if you importing something from Lodash or whatever, yes, you can use this way. Take this as a function. OK, and also, they still executed in order. Remember I said they are deferred. They always in particular order. And another thing, imports and exports can be used only at top level. So you see, you cannot say, if something is not supported, import. No, on top level for performance purposes. Yes, you will have a trick how to do this not only on the top level, just shortly, you will need dynamic import, which we'll discuss a bit later. Differences with classic scripts, they always using cross-origin mechanism. Previously, in your script, doesn't matter if you said, I want to execute something from Google, go. Yes, your browser started execution. Here you cannot, for security purposes, now it follows cross-origin mechanism. If that particular host doesn't allow you to execute the file, if there is no specific header like access control allow origin, no, it will not be executed. Which is good, just believe me, for security reasons. And now, it was enforced, you have to have a valid JavaScript MIME type, which means, okay, if you have Apache or Nginx or whatever, you have to say, for my files like JavaScript, set content type text JavaScript, and header set access control allow origin if you won't allow other domains to use your particular module or script. Different type of attributes. Async is classic attribute which you can say, and async attribute saying, download me and execute as only I'm available, as only you downloaded this. Second part of script is actually classic. Classic scripts, they always blocking everything and saying, till I'm executed, nothing can be executed. Till I'm downloaded and executed, nothing goes next. And module script and deferred scripts, as I said, they deferred and they're always in order. So you see, execution will be, maybe it's not so visible for you, but first it will be async scripts as only as they're available. As only we come into classic scripts, they in order and blocking everything. And of course, deferred and modules just in order is expected. Another thing, they are strict by default. That's why you need this type module. Of course, you would say, like, Serg, it's terrible. Why I should use type module? Why we couldn't just make the import and export work? Because your browser just doesn't know. Should it be strict script or no? In strict mode, you cannot do some particular usual JavaScript errors which actually which will break a lot of sites. So previously, yes, you can put some magic variables on the top level. Yes. In strict mode, you cannot do this, which means in module scripts, this particular syntax will always throw an error. The same for duplicate params in functions and everything. So yeah, they are strict by default. You don't need to put this use strict anymore. And finally, we come into a process why and how they, how they actually load in your browser. So you see, there are three phases how they load it in the browsers. It's a construction phase, where you just like, okay, I have a module, yeah, which is main module, which is script, and then there is dependency graph. It has two dependencies. These two dependencies have another billion dependencies. I need to actually understand all these dependencies. Okay, then we come into the second part, instantiation. When we know there is a huge module graph, and I want to put some linking between them. The trick is here, you see. We don't execute the code, and we're saying there is only dependency between some particular modules. But what exactly will be the value of this dependency? You know, just like I will put a bit later on the next step. The question would be, why so strange? Why do we need this exactly two steps? Just first, which says dependency between modules, then execute the code. Here, handling circle dependencies. You see, just like rock, paper, scissors. How? I have particular example for you. Even numbers, odd numbers, I want just to understand, and you see there are two modules, they are fully dependent on each other. But take a look, modules are dependent on each other, but not functions. So which means if somehow I just, you see, in EvenJS I'm importing odd.js, in odd.js I'm importing EvenJS. Looks like shouldn't work, it will, because this trick with instantiation, when your browser or just Node.js instantiates this, it will just put the dependency between modules up before executing the code. That's why it will be still working. So now circle dependencies are handled for you for free. And this is the trick. You're not going to like this. ECMAScript module path, you know, when you're saying like import something. And here is the trick. We got used to use Lodash, yeah? Webpack and everything else will do the trick for us. So take a look. There are a lot of restrictions in your Node.js and browsers now, but I will show you the solution. They must be a full URL. That must be just like relative URL, which means it cannot be the dynamic for static imports. Just you cannot say, here is my path, add some particular subpath. Nope. No extensions. No, if you put Lodash without Lodash.js, it's not going to work. Absolutely terrible, yeah? No Node.js resolutions like Node modules or whatever. So what we're going to do with this? Currently, we work on package name maps, which will allow you to dictate how your module should be resolved. There is some Node modules. In Node modules, there is a moment, which is actually in some particular moment folder, and after there is src moment.js. So yeah, it's coming. The questions actually which I can try answer, do we want to replicate Node.js behavior? Most of all, no. It will be fully allowed for you do whatever you want and resolve the modules in the way you want to resolve them. NPM main field resolution, I will show you on the next slides. I'm sorry. Dynamic import. I'm sorry, guys. Something what I promised you, which will at least be much more better for use. Dynamic import, it says like, okay, at some particular, it's a promise-based API, which gives you ability at any particular part of your JavaScript just to say, I need to load some module dynamically. Wonderful. And you see, immediately you can use dynamic paths, like component paths. You can put this not on the top level, but whenever you want in your application. And it works with async await, which is wonderful. So you see, on this particular line, you don't see the difference between static import and actually dynamic import, because you say await, import, my thing. Perfect. So, yeah, dynamic path, async await, everything there. Here is a demo. Let me show you the demo, how it actually works. So let's take a look. I have a demo where I just like want to load some particular libraries dependency on some user action, jQuery, and then Bootstrap, which is depending on jQuery, and open the window using this particular library. So here, as only I click the button, some particular function will be executed, which is open dialog. In this open dialog, I will just load jQuery, then Bootstrap, and only after, when all this is available, all this will go on in asynchronous mode, I will open the model window. So I click the button, and you see immediately jQuery started loaded, as only jQuery loaded, Bootstrap loaded, and finally model window is open. You can use this for your polyfills, for additional pages, for third-party scripts, for services, anywhere, and it works with async await, which is perfect. And we come into Node.js. In Node.js, unfortunately, it's still under the flag. The flag is experimental modules. But the good thing is that complete polyfill for Node.js is available, which will make work everything, including just like static import, dynamic import, path resolution from Node modules, and whatever. Everything what you got used, but with a new syntax. So as only you have this polyfill or this flag enabled, you can use import file system from FS. Previously, you had to do require. Now you have all the import and all the just like dynamic import there. And the only one thing, it all require MJS extension. MJS extension, that's why people saying it's dubbed with Michael Jackson solution. The problem is, yes, we needed the flag. The flag which will say, I'm a module or not a module. Do you remember I said to you, depending on the module or not the module is script, so the same script will be executed in two modes, strict or not strict. Michael Jackson solution saying, I'm strict. Yes, Michael, thanks, we used your label. That's how it works in Node.js. Unfortunately, we need this MJS solution. That's the best we found. Come to me, I will explain why. It took around half a year, and all the dev community said, yes, we need MJS. NPM. If you're speaking about Node.js, we cannot skip NPM. NPM packages are essential part of Node.js universe. Yeah? And in package.json, you're always saying, in Webpack, for example, or in the modules, when I'm resolving Lodash, where to go? Where is the main file which I will be resolved? So usually it's this bundle file. But now I'm coming and saying, I want to actually push all my source code on NPM because I can. Now it's modules. You know, every NPM, every Node.js will work with this. So now we added one particular field, which is module, which says, here is index source, put on the entry file for your Webpack or whatever. And it's supported by Webpack, Rollup, Parcel, whatever. Any particular system will work with this. Here is the trick. Module field in package.json. Import.meta. As only you in Node.js world, there is some usage in browser. You want to know some information about your particular files. First information you want to know. Okay, what is the URL for my current script? When you could, in Node.js, it's dir name. It's not available in modules. The main idea, you have to use import.meta.url. For example, just you want to resolve some resources relative to the module file. I know, test configs, images, whenever, yeah? Another like thing, script element. I want to have a reference to current script element. Remember in require.js, you put some data option with the script. To read these particular options from the script here, data option value, you need particular reference to your script. Previously, you used document current script, but it's global variable in JavaScript. We couldn't reuse this for modules. And finally, I want to know, is it the main file or no? What is the entry URL for this particular script? Let me show you the example. Imagine, we have a module. We have a module which can be used as, first of all, either just like file which you can execute. You say not test MJS. You run in me as a file, so I will run the test for the package. Quite usual example. If I'm imported as a file, I will return the test config. So for this one, you have to understand first how I'm actually call it. Am I imported or not imported? For that, you can use this particular line, import.meta.entry URL is equal to import.meta URL. If it's the same, yes, I'm the global file, yeah? I'm just executed directly. Then you can read script element and just check if there was any test config passed with as a data param to it, as we did for require.js or whatever. And finally run the test. Otherwise, just return the test config, which just we read at the beginning. So import meta URL when you just load anything relative to the URL. This will be available online. So guys, just for this particular example, I think you will need an online slide just to take a look. To answer your question, so import is very tricky. Import you can use for static imports, yeah. Import something, yes. Import you can use as dynamic import as a function, and import you can use like an object, import.meta. How does it work? So browser and Node.js does this, they do this magic on the flight. On the flight, when it starts executing your file, it will do this magic. Import for statics, import as a function for dynamic, import.meta just for additional information for your file. And of course, we have not only browser scripts, classic scripts, and module script. We have other types of script, not only Node.js. Workers, web and service workers. Can I use import and export there? Yes, you can. Just put second param type module for your worker or service worker. After that, feel free to use import, export there, whatever. CSS Houdini. I'm just wondering, guys, who actually heard about CSS Houdini? Better. Previous year it was around 0.1 people in general, much better. So CSS Houdini, all the browsers and other big companies, we are working on just exposing browser internal API for you as developers, which will make run your scripts in parallel with browser rendering stages. So they use worklets. They are ECMAScript modules by default, so you can use import and export. There as well. So one, the service workers, web workers, CSS Houdini, WASM. The new type of high-performance code, possibly, I think somebody just was speaking here about this today. Yeah, so WASM, it's something like binary code. You put your JavaScript code in some particular transpiler, and after, you just change it, and your browser starts executing this twice, 2-3 times faster, depending on your code. It's kind of C++ solution. So currently, they're trying to apply ECMAScript modules as well. And there is a test if it's actually working in your browser, Node.js, whatever. Performance. The trick is currently I'm loading 1,000 files instead of my one bundled file. You definitely could just ask me how. HTTP2, somebody just definitely was speaking about this today. It's a new format, and you can easily trigger this on your Nginx or just like Apache config. It's just a module. Just include this for your servers. Servers, actually all GitHub or other guys switched to HTTP2 around a year ago. So that's the trick. Previously, all the requests, just each browser said you can send 3, 4, 5 requests to the same domain at the same time, not more. That's why we had all this like stairs. Ooh. Now, doesn't matter how many requests you send at the moment. It will be mostly with the same performance in the browsers or whatever. Let me show you the demo. So here is the demo. I'm trying to load either one bundled version of Node.js, which is around 600 kilobytes, or I'm loading around 600 modules. Let's take a look on the performance. Sorry. So once again, 122 milliseconds and 146 milliseconds. I'm sorry. Network tab. Here is the proof. All these modules were loaded. You see the performance of one bundled file, nearly the same, of course, around 10–20% slower for native modules. But it's not 5, 10, or billion times. It's a bit slower. So very, very close. In Chrome, it's a bit worse. It's about 3, 4, 5 times slower. Chrome team is actually working on this, and hopefully they will just make this much more performant. And you have a trick. You have link module preload. Link module preload, guys, you have all this graph of dependency. Something depending on something, on something, on something, yeah? It's absolutely terrible graph. And when your browser executing this, I'm not sure if it's gonna work, nice. You see here is actually this particular just graph of dependency. So what your CPU is doing on different stages of the page load. And here is nothing. It means that your script was loaded until browser will understand all this graph of dependencies, nothing is going on CPU. It's actually network request, it's something else. But nothing is going on CPU, so it's just idle cycles. What we can do with these cycles? Use rel module preload. I know there is a dependencies, there is a sub-dependencies, and just it will be similar to how you use link preload for CSS, for JavaScript, whatever. So now for modules, it's the same. And take a look. Now everything is busy here, and page load will be much more faster. Here is actually dependency. How fast it will be with bundled scripts, the faster. A bit slower with unbundled plus module preload, and just unbundled scripts are terrible. So you see how much performance boost you will take as only you just using this module preload. And another trick. Do you remember my example with modal window where I wanted just to preload some particular JS when I click at the button? So now I can use module preload. When I will click the button, it will be already preloaded and immediately executed. So module preload just preloads the file, but not evaluated. That's the trick. And unit testing. Of course, you use Mocha, you use Chai, whatever. How in the hell are you going to use just like this particular module types? Yes, you can do this. The old trick, now your module is deferred. So you have to listen till your script is loaded and only after execute your particular tests. How to know if it was loaded or no? The same as for classic scripts, just use script.unload and execute your function, or add even listen load. Absolutely the same functionality. So takeaway, unit tests should be deferred. No module. Okay, Serg, I'm possibly convinced, and I want to start using this particular solution of ECMAScript modules. How? Here is the trick. You see, you use this bundled main file, so which is generated by your Webpack, whatever. Now, everything you have to do, add attribute no module, which will say, if your browser support ECMAScript modules, don't execute this particular file, and it will be skipped. And we already know, if I have type module, it will be executed as with all this import-export support. And put the entry file for your Webpack and whatever here. So that's the main trick, how you can do this. And the question would be, do we have the live examples? Yes, I actually didn't put many of them, but yes, my site, yeah, self-advertisement. Take a look. Take a look, and I will show you bundled script. I'm sorry. Bundle.js. Everything what I just showed you. You see, my bundle script is just no module, added with no module attribute and deferred to make sure that the behavior is the same. And type module is for this particular main file, which says I want to import whatever and export whatever. And even though I'm looking into the network tab, you see all this data was loaded from application.js. And just to prove, I use classes, I use async, await, const, let, whatever. So everything what I just told you, I proved that it works. It's a flag for really make sure that you don't need to transpile any ECMAScript plus features. And it works on other sites. Also in Node.js, Lodash is already for a year also delivered as ECMAScript modules. and bundled solution. And in Polymer, in Web Components, the talk, by the way, will be just after this one. They also use native ECMAScript module as an option. Perfect. So let's try to put all these great things together. Support, great one. Everything was green, right? How to include? We use this type module flag for the browsers or Michael Jackson solution, MJS for Node.js. Super. Migrate. How do I migrate? I'm using no module attribute for migration, which I showed you just in the last slide. HTTP2, it's required, because otherwise I'm loading 1,000 files, one after another. It's absolutely terrible. If I use HTTP2, it's binary format, everything loading at the same time. Link module preload to even boost your performance even better. Again, simple configuration. You don't spend time for your build. You just really debugging the real things. So publishing is also OK. So you see it's supported in all these solutions. Your question would be, is it fully ready for enterprise project? Possibly no, till, for example, Chrome team and others just make some improvements in performance. But for small and middle-sized apps, it's just perfect. And yeah, if you have additional questions, first of all, you can ask now. You can find me later in Twitter or just like read my slides. And slides are available online here. I think that's everything I wanted to speak about today. Thank you very much, guys.
As a replacement.
Cheers.
OK, let's have a look at the questions. So some of these questions have already been answered in your speech, but let's talk about fallback solutions for browsers that don't support native modules. What should we do?
Exactly. For browsers which don't support native modules, you have to actually still deliver bundled versions. For new browsers, you just doing no module. So bundled version is still required. With no module attribute, it will work for late browsers. Exactly. Internet Explorer. For Internet Explorer, I deliver in my particular site bundled solution with attribute no module. That's the answer.
Okay. Is there some negative side of using native modules?
Yes, performance. Performance is still when you will have more than 2,000–3,000 modules, it will be quite slow. Believe me, it will be. That's why I said that it's not fully ready for enterprise solutions.
OK, there's one more interesting question. Why would you want to use natively when bundlers give you so much more?
Yeah, it's one of the slides. Do we have it here? No, I don't think so. Yeah. So yeah, one of my slides, I showed you that actually now it's the same syntax for Node.js, it's the same syntax for browsers. You can use this as a flag for ECMAScript features delivery. And again, configuration is not required and build is not required. It's just really faster. We will come here just like, yes, I remember the story with ECMAScript 6. Now you can fully deliver everything to your browsers with ECMAScript 6 because they support. It will be in half a year the same story with native ECMAScript modules. So again, support across Node.js and browsers, no config, no build, you're not spending time, and literally debugging time. You will have immediate dev cycles, which will save you time. You will really debug, as I showed you, real solution. It will be not source code, it will be nothing, it will be real, your file.
And whoever used Webpack or Rollup or any of these tools know how much time it takes for you to wait for the build to finish again.
Exactly.
OK. Is it fully supported by TypeScript? Is TypeScript using ESM or they are faking it somehow?
I asked it today and raised it actually the issue in TypeScript. They tried to actually make sure that they skipping, just like they allowing the system when they still processing each particular file, but imports, exports will be resolved by your browsers. So honestly, it's still not ready, but yeah, after I raise the issue, I will find somebody who is responsible about this in TypeScript. Yeah, wonderful question.
Usually async and await, for example, transpiles to horrible code.
Exactly. So guys will be working on this. Yeah, after the push of community half year ago, it was the same for Rollup, for Webpack and others. So we just need the push.
OK. What cool next thing are you waiting now in ES?
In ECMAScript? I think it will be just like, pipeline, but yeah, pipeline operator will be soon supported by Webpack because currently a few guys working on this. Native, Yeah, I think pipeline operator would be the last thing I'm writing.
How about Elvis operator?
Elvis?
You know this now propagation operator when you have object, nested object, and then you can put this question mark somewhere, and you can say just fallback to now.
There is already just Webpack plugin, so I'm already using this. As far as I remember, at least I use this for one of my.
It's one of the candidates now. I think it's in stage 3, I think already.
Yeah.
So.
And I think there is a Webpack plugin. Possibly I'm wrong.
Okay.
I remember that I tried, and it's still not supported natively in any browser.
Some of the languages where this exists, it's really powerful function. So, okay, so that concludes for the day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys.